Allez, bonjour. Makor gemaj nekas makpanda totem. Sagetong donji. Butchibwinishnabe and Dao. My English name is Jerry Fontaine. I'm an Ojibwe Anishinaabe from Sagetong, a place where the river widens. I've been asked by Natasha McKinstry to give a little talk today about the importance of stories, and because it's such a broad area, I wanted to focus specifically on something that I've been doing for the last number of years, just by way of introduction, and how I came to this place, and how I came to do the things that I'm doing now. For most of my adult life, I've been involved in Anishinaabe politics at Saging or Sagetong. I've been doing. I've done that, out of because of passion and commitment to do the right thing. So, beginning at a relatively young age, at the age of 22, I was first elected to council at Saging, and I was elected to a council position. Held that position for one term, and then went off and did some other things, and then approximately 7-8 years after that, I was elected to the position of Indian Act Chief in Saging, and I served in that position for approximately 10 years. And it was during this time that I got involved or gained some knowledge of ceremony, and also got involved in the planning of the first contemporary gathering of the Three Fires Confederacy, which was made up of the Ojibwe Anishinaabe, the Udawa Anishinaabe, and the Potawatomi Anishinaabe. I got involved in that probably in the early 1990s, and since that time, I've been it's driven me. It's become a passion of mine, so much so that when I left the position of Indian Act Chief at Sagetong and Saging, I decided to add or to pursue graduate studies. So I got involved in a master's program at the University of Manitoba. I should say as well that prior to my being elected at Saging, I obtained my master's business administration from European University in Paris, France, and at that time as well, I focused on the Three Fires Confederacy as an alternative to Indian Act administrations throughout Canada. So my focus, the focus of my thesis at that time was the Three Fires Confederacy. So sorry about that, but I just wanted to put that into context. So my master's in business administration and my master's in art focus on the Three Fires Confederacy. Upon completing my master's at the University of Manitoba, I thought it would be interesting and helpful if I entered into the PhD program. So I entered into and finished my PhD at Trent University in Peterborough, and my focus, or the focus of the dissertation, as I said previously, traditional leadership, Ukamau, Shigo, Ukamau, and traditional governance. And in terms of leadership, traditional leadership, I focused on three very important leaders, Anishinaabe leaders that, probably I would say three of the most important leaders that Turtle Island, Manitoulin, I say the Creator's Land, has ever witnessed, and that's Pontiac, Tecumseh, and Shinwak, and their use of the Three Fires Confederacy. And it's relevant that we speak or we acknowledge their accomplishments today, primarily because Pontiac in 1763 took to war based on a vision of Niwen. And Niwen, even 17, you have to look at it I guess from the perspective of the time, where we're 2013, and in 1763, in 1763 they started dealing with the issues that we're still dealing with today, and that if you focus on the importance of if you focus on survival, respect of our rights, of our primordial rights to this land and to this territory and to the resources. They were focusing, or Pontiac was focusing at that time on recognition of Anishinaabe leadership and Anishinaabe governance. And he took to war in 1763 to address the trespass of Europeans into Anishinaabe territory. So in 1763 he took to war. And at the end of this war in 1763, Great Britain issued the Royal Proclamation, which was I think, from my perspective, was a recognition or an admittance to defeat on the part of Great Britain. Because during the war, Pontiac was able to lay siege to all of the forts excepting Fort Pittsburgh and Fort Detroit. And he ended his siege of Fort Detroit in May of 1763 when he learned that Great Britain and France had signed a truce at the Treaty in Versailles. And when he learned of the treaty, and when he also when the discussions to the Royal Proclamation started taking place, he said, well, you know what, they can have their fort, we have our land. And he ended his siege at Fort Detroit. And out of the Royal Proclamation, we come, it was understood that prior to any land exchange that would take place between the Anishinaabe and British or the British Crown, that treaties would have to be entered into. And this is how the land exchange, the agreement to share the land and resources, for this is this is what precipitated the treaties, I guess. I'm kind of talking, freewheeling here in terms of the talk, but the Royal Proclamation stipulated that any land exchange, before any land exchange would take place, treaties would have to be negotiated. So that began in 1763, and we're 2013. and it'll be, you know, if you look at the history, and if you just look at the time frame, 1760s, 2013, we're still, we have Pontiac to thank for what we have today, essentially. And it's kind of ironic that even today, still, that we're, you know, we're still having to fight and to protect what was rightfully ours, you know, and you know, we're still protecting, we're still striving to protect land, we're still striving to protect resources, we're still striving to protect our way of life, our identity. So all of that, you know, we've been having to deal with that since the coming of the European to our to Manitowoc.